Through 5 weeks of the season, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1, and Aaron Rodgers has looked good. Yet, Pro Football Focus, PFF, has him graded as the worst quarterback in the entire NFL. That's worse than Cam Ward, JJ McCarthy, Jake Browning. Yet watching a game on Sunday, Rodgers looks good. One could argue that the film adds an additional layer of context that the PFF graders miss. So today we'll dive into what the PFF grading process is, why they hate Aaron Rodgers so much, and where I agree and disagree. PFF's grading process operates on a scale from +2 to -2, with 0.5 increments in between on any given play. For quarterbacks, 0 is an average play, you hit a guy in the hands. A 3-yard slant that's reasonably open, for example, boom, you get a 0. A +2 is an exceptional throw on a tight window down the field. They use this epic Manning to Manningham throw in the Super Bowl as the golden example. Or there's a -2 throw, an egregiously bad play, doesn't have to actually get intercepted. They grade the quality of the throw, not necessarily the result. And if a play isn't quite as good or quite as bad, it could get a +1, -1, +0.5, etc., etc. Despite Rodgers putting up good counting stats, he has the NFL's 3rd highest touchdown rate, decent yards per attempt, his EPA per play is pretty low, his turnover-worthy play rate, also a PFF metric, is 6th highest. He's not having a great season by any means, but good season, it seems so. So today we'll dive in further to discuss why PFF has him as the worst quarterback in the league. But before we dive deeper, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Arena Club. Arena Club is a platform that takes trading cards, flips the whole thing on its head, turning it into a digital experience. I used to have baseball cards, football, Magic, MLB Showdown, and as a kid, I loved all of it. Going to the card shop, the best part was just when you were opening the pack. Well, now when you buy slapbacks, you can get that same feeling for hundreds of dollars or less, and potentially pull a card worth tens of thousands. Everybody can see what you've got, you can see what everybody else has, you can buy, trade, anything you did with your friends, now you can do with everybody. I'm absolutely fired up with my collection. I've got CJ Stroud's, I've got Bradshaw, whatever this Pokemon's name is, everybody is here. I love it, I get to keep collecting, Arena Club is what I use. Right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/Rollins and use code Rollins. There are several areas where I disagree with Rodgers' grade given the method in which PFF uses to evaluate quarterbacks. For one, because the Steelers' offensive line is suspect, Rodgers has been rushing at times to get rid of the ball, and because he's excellent pre-snap, he can create more open throws, which in turn makes the grader grade him a little bit lower, even though the degree of difficulty is still high. For the first one, the O-line stuff, it's evident that when Rodgers sees defenders in zone coverage backing off, he's going to throw it underneath very quickly, partially because of the suspect protection. Additionally, there are certain offensive concepts that are as simple as stretching out a zone defender vertically, and when Rodgers turns his head, he also sees the Patriots are blitzing, so he wants to get rid of the ball quicker, so when he sees the coverage deep, he's quickly getting rid of the ball because that's the way the play is designed. This is the right read, even though it's most likely just graded by PFF as a 0, it hits him right in the hands, not too difficult of a throw on the surface. But this makes things tough because we only get to see the final grade, not the process of how every single individual play is graded. Using their scale to grade quarterbacks becomes challenging when you take in how many different variables there are in football, where, for example, Rodgers has been getting blitz more than usual, 36% this year, compared to a career average around 30. So like here, for example, the Patriots blitz and overload the Steelers' side of the protection, making Rodgers hot. Hot means that instead of going through his normal 1-2-3 progression, it's now on him to find his hot receiver. A receiver is running a shorter route that Rodgers auto-checks to if he's getting said free runner. So while this is graded as easy throw to an open receiver, if Rodgers misses that he's hot from the free runner, he's probably taking a sack and a much lower grade. We can also look at his ability to grade open receivers with his pre-snap processing, where a player would not be open, so once again, Rodgers would either throw the ball away or take a sack, creating a negative grade, where here it's like a 0 or 0.5 instead. He pretends to take the snap and sees that Christian Ellis jumps and that Craig Woodson is gonna come down to pick up Pat Freiermuth. Rodgers knows that since Woodson is trying to maintain the disguise, he has to keep his depth, So Rodgers audibles from this gaudy concept, a go outside and a 5-yard option route inside, to a 2-step quicker out route. And once again, the grade on this throw is based off hitting an open receiver, so it's probably a 0. But the process of creating an open man instead of throwing into a dead concept is much harder to accurately grade out. While I do think that Rodgers is playing at a high level, I also think there is reason for PFF to give him a grade that isn't great, but just not the worst in the league. Take this 2-play example where the Patriots are trying to show Rodgers that same look as before. They have Marte Mapu creating down, showing like he's not in coverage, but is instead gonna blitz, and they have the safety Jalen Hawkins leaning heavy off the hash to show Rodgers they're gonna rotate down in coverage. But then they blitz from the other side. However, since they're disguising the coverage, they have to race back to their natural landmarks, and Rodgers makes an awesome throw up the seam. This is the good. But then there is also the bad. Rodgers' interception percentage is quite high, 6th highest to be exact. He's only thrown 3 interceptions, but he's 28th in the league in pass attempts, so that number, while an extremely small sample, is way up there. So when we get the same concept of the seam, he doesn't see the Patriots not blitzing, they're just dropping into zone, and he throws it right through the face mask of Robert Spillane for the interception. I think the challenge in grading a quarterback, especially when we're not subjected to exactly how each play is graded by PFF, is that we don't know what the grader themselves is truly seeing. The Steelers have this sail concept where they're reading 3 different levels of the coverage: deep, intermediate, and underneath to the flat. Defenses can really only create 2 levels of coverage, a safety deep and then a corner or linebacker who's underneath, sitting there trying to defend 2 different players. When the play starts, if Rodgers just holds the ball a little bit longer, he'd know that the cornerback Isaiah Rodgers is bailing deep, which would then tell him Dallas Turner probably isn't going to drop deep enough for the intermediate route, so DK Metcalf will be open. But when Rodgers drops back and the Vikings blitz, for a second their pass rush flashes like they're breaking through. Troy Fautanu also starts to get smoked. So if you're the quarterback and you already don't trust the protection, shouldn't you get rid of it quicker? Is the grader giving this a 0 for hitting the ball carrier in the hands? Or is he giving Rodgers a minus grade for not holding long enough to hit the open DK? These questions need to be answered by the grader himself, and they are hard questions to answer. And I'll give you another one. It's a fake screen to Kenny Gainwell where the concept expects the defense to crash towards Gainwell to blow up the screen. But in reality, it's a fake screen where Rodgers is not supposed to throw to him at all. I'm not saying for sure the grader doesn't know this concept, but I think there is a very real possibility he sees this as a possibly open receiver, then a throwaway, which definitely in that specific context would be graded as a minus throw. Or there is this play, a touchdown, which I actually believe goes the other way. Very likely a positively graded play for Rodgers, maybe even a 2.0, the highest you can get, but I think it deserves less. It's designed to go to the slant against man coverage. It's challenging for the cornerback to get through DK Metcalf, who's supposed to set a pick, but the Seahawks are ready for it and zone off, so check out Rodgers throws this high and away from him so he can go and get it. It's essentially a jump ball where he expects his monster receiver to win the 50-50 ball, to where this could look to a grader like it's a tight window perfectly placed pass, but from my view, Rodgers is throwing this up for his guy to win. Do I think Aaron Rodgers is the worst quarterback in the league? No, I don't, and I don't think PFF's analysts actually do either. I think Rodgers looks much better than he did with the Jets. We've seen him able to move around better this year, a key part of his game, and I believe that last year, while healthy, he wasn't back to full strength a year out from a torn Achilles. PFF is an extremely impressive company with a wealth of valuable resources, research, and statistics, and I think their grades are valuable too, just need to be taken with a grain of salt. I don't rely on them for my own film and player analysis, but I'm also not going to completely ignore them, because they still do correlate to a positively graded player playing well and a negatively graded player playing poorly. There is so much missing context and subjectivity in football analysis that it will always be hard to ultimately define what actually happened on a given play. But still, at the end of the day, nobody believes Rodgers is the worst quarterback in the league, and PFF I don't think believes he is either. With the way he's playing, Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are on their way to the playoffs.